Redevelopment Agency. That is our CRA. We're delighted to have each of you with us. At this time, I would ask Madam Clerk, Ms. LaMagna, for a roll call.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Commissioner Paris.
Here.
Commissioner Strickland.
Here.
Commissioner May.
Here.
Commissioner Cantu.
Here.
Commissioner Henry.
Present.
Chair Derek L. Henry.
Present. At this time, we will have the invocation, which will be led by Commissioner Strickland, and we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, normally led by Commissioner Reed. Tonight, we will be favored to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by the distinguished cadets. Please rise for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alpha, eight, forward, march.
Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you for allowing us to come together here tonight, to have the citizens here for their input, to participate in their government, and to watch over and guide all of us to do the right thing in your eyes, especially those of us that sit up here. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
We'll now move on to item number 4, which is approval of the minutes of the November 6, 2024 meeting of the Community Redevelopment Agency.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or comments? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries 7-0. We'll now have approval of our agenda. If there are any changes, our city manager will address them.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, there are no changes for the CRA agenda tonight.
All right, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
We'll take a motion from Commissioner Reed, a second from Commissioner May. No questions or comments. All those in favor, let it be denoted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those in opposition, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we're going to move on to item number 6, which is our administrative items. Item 6A is a redevelopment neighborhood services approval of the use of CRA funds for work authorization number 2. This is a resolution approving the expenditure of tax increment funds from the Main Street Redevelopment Trust Fund in amount not to exceed $59,100 to pay for the conceptual landscape architect design for Main Street and Ocean Avenue streetscapes and area planning and providing an effective date.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion. We'll take the second from Commissioner Strickland, a motion from Commissioner May. Do we have speakers?
I have several speakers, Mr. Mayor. Our first speaker is Jenny Nazak, and on deck is Sandy Murphy. And for the record, because you can come on up, Jenny, because we don't have our timer, I'll be using the iPad timer.
All right. Jenny Nazak, 501 Harvey Avenue. So the expenditure will include some plants and landscaping. This is a high-profile area, and it's a golden opportunity to make it reflective of our unique beachside environment. So I would request that the city go in a direction of plants that are similar to, like, for example, the Kemp Street entrance to the beach, where there's sea oats and sea grapes and wildflowers and so on. And also look into environmentally responsible lighting. Thank you very much.
Okay. Our next speaker is Sandy Murphy, and on deck is Ann Ruby.
Good evening, Sandy Murphy, 136 Park Avenue. I agree with everything that Jenny said. I think a small contract like this
Good
gives
place
us
to
a
start.
chance to really do something different without making anybody too nervous or worried about what's gonna happen with this native greenery. And I think it will be a wonderful little demonstration of how beachy it can make us feel, about how it will, kind of fit with the personality of our town. So I encourage you to approve it, but with the idea that we are encouraging a natural landscape that fits with our beachside location.
Who's in charge of putting that, buying that stuff?
Our next speaker is Ann Ruby, and on deck is John Nicholson.
Okay.
Ann Ruby, 137 Park Avenue. I agree with everything Jenny said and Sandy said. It is a wonderful opportunity for us to take a leadership role in doing landscaping that is environmentally friendly, appropriate, and uses native plants. In addition, it should, when you're doing landscaping that way, you can come look at my front yard. It's getting brown. It doesn't look great. So additionally, they should incorporate into their design, what's it gonna look like when it browns out? There can be rock formations, there can be all different things that they could do to make it look great using only native plants. You don't have to fertilize, you don't have to water. It's the environmentally responsible thing to do, and it would make our beachside such a better place. So instead of, if you could give them a very clear instruction, that they come back with a plan that does that. Because they're gonna be tempted to come back with something, they'll say, well, we're just gonna slip in a few of these because they stay green year round. And then all of a sudden, now we have to water, we have to fertilize. So please, be clear in what you're asking for. Thank you.
I asked, is that the last speaker?
I have one more speaker, Mr. John Nicholson.
John Epson, 413 North Grandview. Jenny Nazak has been asking for this
That's
for
what I'm gonna say.
10 years, whatever. 35 years ago, we had a woman who decided that Daytona Beach should look like Miami Beach. We went through the Art Deco thing. Everything was pink, everything was aqua. Didn't work so well, all right? We have to be who if we were somewhere else. We have to be our own selves, all right? I have a couple of questions on the roads that we're choosing and the locations. Several years ago, we had a enterprise zone, and we decided to cut Ocean Walk in half and include one half of Ocean Walk in the enterprise zone, not the other one. Then we decided to go down Main Street, but not include anything past Peninsula. If you're going to have an entertainment zone, you include blocks on Main Street, and we're still not doing it, all right? Why are we landscaping Anderson's property, a private property? Why? We don't own Ocean Avenue North. Anderson owns that. If they're looking to build, we landscape it, and then 2 days later, they bulldoze it down for a hotel. It doesn't make sense. And lastly, why go down Ocean Avenue and stop at Harvey? That whole street, because just past Harvey is a very, very popular nightclub, a restaurant on the beach, all right? So if we're going to do it, let's do it right, let's do it inclusive, and let's take the holistic view that that is an entertainment zone and that all of it should be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like the record to reflect that 4 of our most engaged residents have required or suggested a reimagination of how we landscape our beach. And Ms. Nazak has done that for a long time. I agree that this is a low-hanging opportunity for us take advantage of that suggestion. So if it pleases a majority of us, I would like to recommend that we have staff to bring back something that reflects her suggestion. So, yes,
I'm okay with that.
well, that's not a majority of us. Okay, that's 3.
I've said so before, so I'm
Okay,
good.
but I gotta hear it so we can give them a direction.
Let me turn my new mic on. Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm in accordance with that.
Okay, all right, so staff, can you hear us back there? Mr. Manager? Okay, all right, thank you. All right,
So we have a
we
motion
have
and
a
a
motion and
second.
a second. I can't take, that's too loud for me. This is kind of different. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be denoted by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. 7-0. I was trying to get to 4. I always have to remind folks I know how to count to 4. Up here, that's what I try to do. But it was 7-0.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 6B. It's a redevelopment neighborhood services incentive agreement for Delta West Accent Daytona Beach. This is a resolution. A resolution approving an incentive agreement between the City of Daytona Beach, the Community Redevelopment Agency, and Accent Daytona Beach LP, providing for annual grant payments, development permit fee waivers, and impact fee reductions associated with the reservation of 50 residential units as workforce housing limits within a mixed-use development project to be constructed at the northeast corner of International Speedway Boulevard and Ridgewood Avenue, authorizing the mayor as the CRA chair and the city clerk to execute the agreement on behalf of the city and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, could we bring Jessica Gow up here to give some salient points on this item? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I do think I have a presentation that's just a rendering. We can get that pulled up. And the microphone has been in and out.
Okay, for that mic. That's not it. It may not be. Letitia. They can't hear. She can just go. Okay. Can we turn on that mic? That mic is not on. Go ahead. Go ahead. They can't find it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just go over some main points. If we find it and get it up, great. Otherwise, I think it was in the backup, at least for the PD amendment.
Yeah.
File. So the request before you tonight is a public-private partnership between the city and Accent Daytona, who's redeveloping the former First Baptist site. The site is familiar to all of us. We've seen it come and go over the years, as we are familiar. This proposal tonight is a request for a tax abatement agreement for up to 80% of the tax increment generated by the project in exchange for certain performance metrics. The first of those is provision of a minimum of 300 apartment units with a minimum construction value of $70 million for the downtown. Of those units, 50 will be set aside for workforce housing, set at 120% of the area median income. Of that set aside, we also want to target at least 2 in a lottery system for first responders. City staff has asked if we're comfortable adding or teaching professionals to that, and we absolutely are. So if you make a motion tonight, we'd love to have you include that clarification that it could include teachers. And then we will also provide redevelopment of the site under the Florida Brownfield Redevelopment Program, improvements to Palmetto Avenue and Bay Street to improve parking and provide additional parking in those areas. And we are providing half rent for a period of 6 months for police officers, subject to a courtesy officer agreement. So those are the performance metrics that the project will bring forward. In exchange, we are requesting 80% of the tax increment assignable to the property. If additional commercial uses are not developed on the adjacent site within a certain time frame, that tax abatement drops down to 70%. And so that was a guarantee that while we do not own that property, we will help kind of motivate them to bring more commercial to the area as well, or that tax abatement request drops down to 70% instead of 80. So this site in November of 2020 was approved for a tax increment agreement with Framework at the time, who's going to develop multifamily there. And that abatement request had 200 units and 95% of the tax increment. And a majority of the commissioners sitting here reviewed that and continued it the first time it came before you. And there are some really interesting notes in the minutes that I will just take a second to read. And I asked Ann if I could quote her, and she said I could. So in the minutes, Ann Ruby noted, in response to the TIF proposal, please take the opportunity to make downtown a place where residents of all income levels can live, work, and play. Boost the downtown not only with mixed use, but mixed incomes. The mayor, also in the minutes, said we have to realize that it's part of the benefit we have as a commission to acknowledge that we need workforce housing, affordable housing, and we need to have the capacity to help make that happen. And this project enables us to do that. We don't have to all agree, but he thinks we all agree that we need workforce housing. So that was in 2020. It did not work for Frameworks pro forma, and we know that they ended up not taking this site, and they're now developing a fantastic project at 400 Beach. But it does work for this pro forma. And we've worked for 3 years since this property owner bought this property with city staff to bring this project forward. And hopefully, all going well with this and a few other applications we have tonight, they'd like to break ground in the first quarter of 2025. So there will not be a delay here. They would love to have started it yesterday because they purchased the property in December of 2021. And so I'm really personally excited about this one. I think it's a great project. There is a rendering that you can see. Wow. This is from ISB in Palmetto. What I love about this perspective is it shows that we are activating the street directly. So those stoops go directly into residential units. Very unique, not really something that we have downtown or in the city overall. I will say the gray color on this rendering, at the neighborhood meeting, it was noted they like a more vibrant color. I think it was Ann. And so that is shifted to blue. And so that has been shifted on the plan set, but not for the rendering just yet. So that will be blue. This shows the front facing from ISB and Ridgewood. So you can see we're designing it with some courtyard pop-ins in the actual units itself with some amenities tucked in there. And then the frontage along ISB and Ridgewood are preserved in a portion of Bay for the potential for future commercial out parcels if some of that parking is converted into structured parking. And so we have gone through quite a few design iterations with city staff. This exhibit here shows those orange areas along Bay Street and Ridgewood. Those are the potential future commercial opportunities, and the darker gray is where that parking would then become structured to support those commercial uses. So we think this is a really fantastic and exciting step for downtown. I've never seen a development group so invested to be in downtown Daytona Beach. We have the developer here with us tonight. They didn't wait for contract deadlines to expire or the risk that this didn't get approved. They bought the property 3 years ago and have working to bring it forward since. And so with that, I'm here for any questions. I did quickly want to note the current taxes on the property are around $17,000 a year, with about $11,000 of that going to the CRA. Even with the highest level of a tax abatement request being approved, the city would realize $150,000 a year directly to the city under the life of the CRA after the redevelopment, with the remainder going to the tax abatement agreement. So you'll see tenfold return even with the tax abatement. With that, I'm here for any questions.
So after 2036, what would be the amount?
The estimated taxes, just using the property appraiser tool, is $1.1 million.
And so for 10 years, we give them a big discount, and then 20 years more, the life of the normal loan, we would get So what if it sits for 5 more years? You know, you know, what sense does that make? And we're getting how much off of it now? 17,000?
Correct.
Okay, let's get to business. Do we have any questions or comments? No questions, no comments? Is you said the applicant is here?
Absolutely. We have Kenny Budd with West Plan with us from Atlanta.
Okay, all right, no other questions? Okay, we have a motion yet? And a second?
We don't have any speakers.
No speakers? Oh, okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All right, any questions, comments? Here none. All those in favor, let it be denoted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
And let me say before we move on, you don't know how long you'll serve in these capacities. And so when you post things, and we live in a very fractured time where people are upset about a lot of things and they have a right to be upset. But when you have lived in Daytona Beach all of your life, and you have had the city have an aspiration of a vibrant downtown, and I appreciate my colleagues for not having any doubt, any hesitation, any reservation, because we all want downtown to be beautiful, bright, brilliant, tremendous private investment has been made. All I can say is the hell with the naysayers. Press forward with greatness. This is a project that is going to make our city a better space and our downtown better. If you want to have a good downtown, and we've said this for many, many years, we want to have we all want a grocery store down there, but you're not going to have it if you don't have people. You're going to have people. In any downtown that people go to, you have just great public spaces. I mean, any downtown that you go to has people, otherwise it's a dead downtown. So welcome to another step of liveliness in downtown Daytona Beach. And thank you to you all for having no reservation to show that we're still a city that's going to march forward to be a better destination. Yes, ma'am.
And that was our last CRA item.
All right, that concludes our CRA agenda. Oh, you got questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to share with everybody, I had gotten the redevelopment area taxes that we've collected for each of our redevelopment areas, and I wanted to share it with everyone. I know that we have our workshop is coming up in January, so just to get an idea of how much we're collecting, how much is going to be in the fund, and maybe how much we could spend on projects coming up for the next 11 years until it expires. So I just wanted to share that with everybody.
Yeah, so, and over the next 11 years, we're going to try to do everything we can to get each one of these parcels and redevelopment areas rolling forward so that the next generation can be proud of these redevelopment areas. All right. Any other questions, comments? Okay, this concludes our CRA meeting. We will start our regularly scheduled city commission meeting in, according to our clerk, 5 minutes.